I'm Maya Schneider, and you're watching a special edition of Truckee Talks. On January 23rd, Truckee Fire Department responded to a 911 call from a business on Donner Pass Road reporting a propane leak. Well, you've seen the outcome of that report, and that outcome has been the closure of Donner Pass Road and the off-and-on closure of some of the businesses there, while different agencies try to take care of this leak. With me on today's show is Chief Mike Terwilliger of the Truckee Fire District. Chief, thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. I imagine we may be doing this a few more times as more updates come in.
I hope not.
Well,
I'm glad to.
Let's go back let's start with some of the safety issues, Twig. I want to get some of these out of the way right away. Is there a danger of explosion?
Well, and that's a good question, and everybody asks us that, Maya, yeah, there is, and that's the reason we're there. As you mentioned, we responded January 23rd to smell of propane, and we respond because it's a life safety issue for ignition, and we determined it was larger than a normal leak, isolated the area, and we continue to monitor to this day while there's all kinds of mitigation efforts that we can talk about to get rid of the propane, but we're there to monitor to make sure we don't have explosive limits. That's our primary concern, is to not have an ignition. So
there is still a danger of that.
Well, and I want to be careful how we say that. The reason we're there and the reason we're monitoring is to minimize that. And we think we have it in control. And when we leave is when we know we don't have a threat anymore. But, you know, I'm not going to mince words. It's propane. It's not where it's supposed to be. And we're there to ensure that we can extract it safely and protect life and property.
Let's talk a little bit about what the task is in front of you. How much propane is estimated to have leaked?
Well, it took a while to reconcile the records with AmeriGas, the company that had the loss. We learned, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, that days are starting to blend together on this thing. It's been a while. Initially, it was 3,600 gallons, and they reconciled the records, and back till March of 2002, it's in the neighborhood of 22,000 gallons of propane that has been lost in the soil. I can't go into details as to how that happened. That's an AmeriGas issue. But it's a perfect mix of a propane leak underground and the geology present in that area. That's an old stream bed, if the old timers remember. Donner Creek wandered through all this country here. A lot of cobble, a lot of underground streams, a lot of utility ditches. And the propane follows a path of least resistance, and that's what it's doing. And it's a plume that's following these paths.
Do you think there's a danger of this plume moving beyond the area that you're working in right now?
I don't think so, because it's been 2 weeks or somewhere in there, and it's pretty much static. We're doing perimeter testing where we probe into the ground with our gas detectors, and it's kind of staying in the general location where we know it is. Dairy Queen, Donner Pass Road, Granite Chief, AmeriGas, and it's kind of staying in there and under Donner Pass Road.
Now, as we tape this, it's Wednesday, the 5th of February. Which businesses remain closed?
The two businesses, and both Herb and Mark, the owners of Granite Chief and Dairy Queen, have been closed pretty much from the beginning. Fortunately for Granite Chief, they have another another facility in Squaw Valley, so they're getting all their inventory there, and so far so good. Dairy Queen's been shut down from the beginning, and we're very concerned about it, but the plume is traveling right under Dairy Queen, and we have some very high mixtures underground under it. And Mark, who owns the business, is, you know, bless his heart, he's been really good. But and then it's affected the middle school, which we can talk about too.
Yeah, well, that was my next question. Why was the school closed?
Well, we measure the gas with our gas detectors, and the plume appeared to go under Dairy Queen and around the DMV complex and follow the creek behind the modulars at the middle school. And we started detecting limits that for us are not good. They're not explosive, but they're working towards that in and around the modulars. We evacuated the children, and that's hard to do. 600, 700 kids is you either, if you get them out at 11 o'clock in the morning, you got to get the parents, you got to shelter them. The limits weren't dropping, so a decision with the school district to close the middle school for the week. And that's where we're at now. Now, A lot of the parents are wondering. I talked to Mike Finney today, and he's working with the district office. We're going to make the decision Friday, this coming Friday, the 7th?
Yes.
This would be. At 9 o'clock is what we're going to do next week.
For the middle school?
For the middle school.
Well, let's get that graphic up on the screen. We have a graphic for contact information for the school district offices. If you're a parent and you have a child in the middle school, you'll want to contact the school district office after 9 a.m. on Friday after this meeting is held and a decision's been made.
I'd probably give Don and Mike till 10 o'clock.
All right, so don't call first thing in the morning, but this Friday at some point, the school district will be making a decision with the fire department on the status of the middle school for next week. You'll want to call the school district at 582-2575, or you can look on their website at www.ttusd.org, and they'll have updates either by phone or on the website about the status of the school. So the school remains closed. Those kids have been going to school at the high school?
Yeah, and obviously Mike and Don could talk more to that, but they adjusted the schedule. The high school kids are getting out around noon, and the middle school kids are showing up there and going till 4. I was there the first day to talk to the high school teachers, and it was, having been a parent in the school, it went amazingly smooth, because that can be a free-for-all.
Yes.
And the kids, the middle school kids, were just in awe of being in the high school anyway.
Well, how cool for them to wander
know.
the high school halls.
Pretty hard for me to go see the principal, because I still think I'm in trouble.
You probably still are.
Yeah.
Chief, are there any health risks with exposure to propane? The fumes, once you can smell it, the gas is there.
Yeah, that question, you know, we've had the community meetings, and that's one of the common questions. Because there's such a strong odor in propane. The two health risks that we have daily, one is flammability, which would be an ignition and possibly explosion, which we're trying to minimize, and the other is if it's total immersion in an atmosphere of propane, it replaces the oxygen your body needs, and you suffocate.
Now that would be a tremendous amount of propane.
So asphyxiation, and that's far beyond anything we're dealing with here. So really flammability limits. Some of the skepticism is that ethyl mercaptan that's put into propane to make it smell, in its natural form it doesn't have an odor. And buildings blew up and nobody knew why, so they put this stuff in it years ago. Is the parts per million that you get when you smell is so minimal, your nose will pick it up million times before it could ever be a problem for you. And there's a lot of skepticism with that in the communities. They don't believe that, but we have a deal called a Draeger tube that we capture the atmosphere in areas of heavy concentration in the soil where you can smell it. We heat the dirt up and emit it in this tube and send it to the lab for analysis, and it can't detect the mercaptan in there, but you can smell it.
But you can smell it.
And so it's not going to hurt you when you smell it. But if you smell it, call 911.
Okay, now I was just going to ask that. So if whether you're on Donner Pass Road or anywhere else in town, if you smell propane, call 911.
What we don't want people to do is go, it's just a darn leak.
Right.
And I'm not going to report it, especially if they're Bank of America or
somewhere in the vicinity of the plume.
The PUD building, Safeway complex. You shouldn't be smelling it there. And if you smell propane, call us. Call 911.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
And don't walk out the door and try to flag down a fireman. Get on your phone and call 911.
Get on phone, call 911.
Okay.
Yeah, every time. We don't mind.
Okay, so here's the $64,000 question, Chief. When will Donner Pass Road reopen?
I'll tell you this, is it will be closed through all of next week.
Now we're getting close to the President's Day weekend.
Yes, and I met with town manager today, Steve Wright, because the districts and the town and everything are tight on this, is we'd really like to have Donner Pass Road open and this back to a manageable state by President's Weekend. Tamara with the town, who is handling the road closures.
Tamara Blanton.
Right. She's she'll probably go off the deep end if she has to manage the traffic on the weekend.
I can't imagine what that would look like.
And this is really an inconvenience. It's difficult. It's unsafe. That's our goal. But like I told you earlier, is I can tell you what it is. I can tell you where it came from. I will tell you that the two environmental firms we've hired are nationally known. They've never dealt with this before, propane underground. The systems that are developing to extract it, we're learning day by day, so I don't know. I think you're going to see eradication efforts for months at the site. But Donner Pass Road, we've dug up quite a bit of it. I hope by President's Weekend, Maya, but
we just can't guarantee it.
I can't guarantee it.
Well, safety comes first.
Yeah, and I want to say is we have 3 goals in everything we do in the fire service, police service, everything. Protect life, protect property, stabilize the incident. Sometimes folks want us to stabilize the incident, continue operations before we close the loop on life. And we can't. We're going to ensure that life is not threatened and then property is not threatened before we do the continuance of operations.
Well, this town has seen a fatal propane explosion. And
many of them.
Yeah, that's right. And certainly
we forget about the residences that blew up in the early 90s.
Yeah, there seemed to be a rash during one winter of propane
heavy
explosions.
Snow. Right. So it's we don't take it lightly at all. I mean, one of the other questions that comes up is if Dairy Queen is closed and you think it's unsafe, why is DMV open? What if it blows up? And one of the questions or issues I wanted to discuss was that the propane is underground and we're getting detectable levels 12 to 18 inches into the ground, poke holes in there. It only surfaces occasionally. The reason Dairy Queen's closed is because it's saturation around it. We've eliminated ignitions. We don't believe it will ignite anything. We've fenced it and we put an aeration system in there. So it's to secure the site. It's a hot zone to keep people out. But we don't believe ignition is as likely as if it was pumping into the building like the old days when we'd have buildings.
Then you would be a much larger perimeter would have been evacuated.
But we could eradicate it because it's above ground.
Okay.
This is underground and it's encapsulated and we can't get it out. We're working on it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about how you're going to get it out in a minute, or maybe you can give us some insight as to what the consultants are doing. But you mentioned a few minutes ago the cooperation with the town. Talk about that. You've got a number of agencies now working on this site. Who's the main contact for people who have a question? Well,
I'll back up a little bit and answer the question by talking about the organizational structures. Many of the people that will be watching this are involved in the government agencies and get involved in our Emergency Operations Center. And you were part of that when you were the council, and we put a lot of funding toward that, and it's at City Hall. And the intent of that is all the agencies that have jurisdictional authority within a problem get together and address the problem as a team versus each agency doing their own thing like they would on a day. So this particular incident, we have a unified command structure, the town, the fire, and environmental health. And under that we have all the TSD is working with us, the PUD, the law enforcement is handling road closures, environmental health, and we're all sharing. So our information officer for all of us on this is Alex of the town.
Alex Terrazas.
Alex Terrazas at the town, and all information goes to Alex. And if anybody has any questions, goes to Alex, and I think you've got his phone number here.
Yeah, I was going to say we can get that up on the screen now as well. Alex Terrazas is the town's PIO, Public Information Officer. He is the coordinating officer for public releases here. Alex Terrazas can be reached through the town of Truckee at 582-7700. You don't need to learn how to pronounce his last name. He's the only Alex at Town Hall so far. So you want to talk to Alex, the town PIO, at 582-7700. How's that been? How are the coordinated efforts been?
That works fantastic. We've worked very hard, and as I mentioned, you were part of that process. And from when the town incorporated, we've all, this isn't patting everybody on the back type thing. This is fabulous, and we're all working together. The fire department is getting the organizational structure with the police department, and bringing all the folks together. It's the incident command system, and you have to be in the business and know what I'm saying, and I don't want to bore everybody with that, but I've worked, this is 31 years I've been doing this. I've worked all over California, and I'm telling you, this is the best interagency relationship situation I've been in, and the storms before Christmas, just fabulous. We work together. The police department's just fabulous.
Good coordinated effort.
Right in the middle of it. The road department, the fire department, the TSD, the PUD, everybody is, environmental health, we're all right there. And this is districts, cities, and counties working together.
And there have been a number of public meetings. Now, a lot of folks may not have been aware of this, but a number of meetings have been held at the PUD offices on Donner Pass Road for the businesses and residents around Donner Pass Road.
Well, and I'll tip my hat to Dan Boone, the chief, as he suggests that we have community meetings, and it's part of the community policing thing, I think, because he's been right there with us. And we had a community forum a few days ago, and I'm sorry, I'm lost track of time.
Yeah, today's Wednesday.
It's been at least a week or so, and it was for the affected merchants. We passed out flyers, police officers did. They came, told them what was going on. Why is there firefighters coming in your business with these whiz-bang gas machines? Try to explain everything. We had a lot of people. I bet we had 100 people there. We did it 2 days later again at the PUD because it's centrally located right there. Had another good turnout, and then we did it day before yesterday again. Just informational, and there's a meeting at 11 o'clock Friday.
Friday the 7th. At
the PUD, and it's for the community. That's anybody that wants to know what's going on. We have the H2O and Broadbent, our environmental agencies there, our professionals that are doing this will answer any questions. Everybody's there, all the experts are there. The insurance provider for AmeriGas, the whole shebang. And I encourage people to come because that's where they're going to get the straight scoop. And they can, if they don't want to ask the question in the meeting, we stay afterwards and they can ask us face to face.
Okay, so again, that's Friday, the 7th of February at 11 a.m. at the Truckee Donner Public Utility District's boardroom. They're located on Donner Pass Road, just up from Meadow Way, 11 a.m. Friday the 7th. This meeting is open to the public. If you have more questions about this event, you'll want to show up to that meeting if you can. We should also Chief, while we have this information, a number of people may be curious about claims and legal action. We're not going to be addressing that on today's show, but we do want to provide information. If you are a business owner, you feel you have a claim, or a homeowner and you feel you have a claim on this, we have information on who to contact for that. We've got that up on your screen right now, and that's Kemper Insurance. That's AmeriGas's insurance company. Their agent, David Curtis. His telephone number, 800-441-3289. You will need the claim number, although they're probably pretty familiar with this event by now. 231-LN-169622. And again, this information is available if you do show up at the public meeting on Friday the 7th. That information will be there.
The adjuster's there.
And the adjuster will be there.
David will be there.
Great. So we'll have some discussion about that. Let's get back to the flume, the plume itself, and talk about what that is. We know LP, when you get it in the can and bring it to plug into your gas or your barbecue at home, is in a different state. You get it in liquid, it's compressed, it evaporates as gas.
When it's in the vessel, it's liquid petroleum gas. When it's kept under pressure to keep it as liquid. In this case, it came out of the tank into the ground into a pipe going to another location, and the pipe broke and it leaked into the ground, and once it was out of that vessel, it became vapor. And as I mentioned earlier, the geology is perfect for that vapor to flow like water and follow its natural course. What makes this unusual is most cases it will rise because of the pressure of the groundwater and the soil and manifest itself, and we'll get a call, shut off the tank, and it's over. This one's so unique that for literally months it leaked underground undetected.
Now we understand it's been leaking since March.
Well, the records of AmeriGas so far show losses from March. So that's kind of the barometer we're using. It could have been going on longer, could have been shorter. But the fact is they can't account for 22,000 gallons, and there's a leak in a pipe, and there's a lot of propane in the ground, so that stands to reason.
There's your math.
That's the mess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of propane in the ground.
Yeah.
But it's vapor now.
Now, how is that vapor extracted from the ground?
Well, and I'm not the engineer that's doing this, Broadbent, who works on plumes. In fact, they're working with the town right now on some of the old plumes that we have from the fuel tanks in this community. So this is their business. And it's PVC pipe. It's an upside down T with a T buried into the ground to the level we feel the propane's at, the little strata that it's sitting at. Then they cap off that to seal it and hook it up to a vacuum system, create a negative pressure, and try to draw those fumes back up the tube. and expel it out into the air. Now the next question is, as well as explosive vapors go into the air, as we're sitting here, they're starting it. Finally got it done. We have our gas detectors checking the LELs coming out of there to ensure that they're not explosive. We don't think they would be, and it's the same technology used for extracting gasoline fumes. I think we're all familiar with what's going on at Pat and Ollie's right now.
Right.
That type of thing went on there. So it's the same engineering with a little bit different twist.
Do you think we'll be seeing the same thing as we've been seeing with Pat and Ollie, as the sort of chain link fencing around a pile of dirt and a gurgling machine?
Well, you know, my guess is that, or our hope, we kind of comment, we're looking forward to the day where it's a chain link fence around the AmeriGas site. It's isolated there, everybody's back to normal, and they're just working on that site doing their cleanup. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. These guys are good, but this is all new. So we'll see.
So we're sort of the test site, the beta site for some of this.
Yeah, Truckee.
In the news again. How does that happen, Twig?
Here we are.
You mentioned a term, and I want to get that out for the public. You mentioned LEL. I think folks are going to be hearing some terminology they're not familiar with.
Lower explosive limit, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible, and I won't get any deeper than I need to go. Propane in the atmosphere, if the atmosphere is 100%, the explosive limits are 2% to 9%. So if there's 2% up to 9% of the atmosphere is propane, it can ignite.
Okay.
Our lower explosive limit is rated below that 2%. So our gas detectors detect, when they say 25% on them, that tells us that there's gas in the air and it's not supposed to be there. But the gas detectors we use, 200% is equivalent to the 2% threshold in the atmosphere.
So you really are being conservative.
Right. So 25%, but remember these are very small increments. So we're giving ourselves 175% area before it's explosive.
Okay.
So if our CGIs, they're called, gas detectors, say 200% in a building like this right here, we have an explosive atmosphere. But if we walk in here when you smell gas and it's 25%, we say get out, let's find a source, because it's not supposed to be there and it could be increasing. So when we're measuring the holes and we say we have 60%, 80%, we're still way below what would be volatile. We're just exercising on a side of caution.
No, that's reassuring.
Yeah. So some of the questions were, is if you're getting gas, why aren't we out? Well, it's not the volatile explosive limit, and it's not in the structure.
It doesn't sound like it's, and it's not within a contained building.
It's under the structure.
Which makes it less of a hazard?
Well, when it's underground like that, it doesn't have it's not within that 2%, 9% of oxygen.
Okay.
If you took that same concentration and elevated above the ground somehow, and just put it out there as a cloud floating around, it'd be very explosive.
Well, that brings me to my next question then. In the propane extraction that you were talking about with this T structure and sucking it out, are we sucking it out and expelling it into the atmosphere, or? Well,
we are. We're expelling it in the atmosphere, but the interesting thing is that as it draws it out, it's so small amounts, and it mixes through the vacuum system, and by the time expelled, it's in the parts per million.
How will you know when you have it all out?
I don't know.
All right.
That's what the broadbent's going to tell us. And H2O is, but we have our detectors out there right now. I'm hoping they're running, and they're measuring all around it to see. If they do have an explosive mixture, then they also have a system set up that then they can ignite it and burn it as it comes out.
Okay.
So either way, but I will say is tomorrow, anybody sees this, and just for tomorrow, or actually the next few days, this could go on for the week. If they might smell this mercaptan in the area. We have firefighters coming in late tonight from other agencies on the hazmat team to help us. We're going to be at the businesses tomorrow at 8 as they come in. So if people smell it, we'll be there to let them know that, hey, we're okay. One other thing we're doing, I want people to know, is, and AmeriGas is doing this, we're getting them to purchase 50 propane detectors that plug into 110 sockets in the wall. And hopefully they're being FedEx, and we're going to put them in all the businesses.
In that immediate area?
In the immediate area, in the school. And basically it's the same thing as your CO detectors and a smoke detector, but it's by the floor. And if they chirp at you, you're getting 20% LELs. You call 911, and we'll come out and check.
Okay.
So,
I want to recap some of the information that we have here. Again, the road closures on Donner Pass Road, 22,000 gallons estimated of LP gas in the ground there. The fire department coordinating with other agencies and, of course, consultants to extract that LP from the ground. 3 businesses are closed, AmeriGas, Granite Chief, and the Dairy Queen. All the other businesses in that area are open, not necessarily easy to get to, and that makes it even more important that you continue to patronize your local businesses. That includes all the businesses in the DMV shopping center, the Pizza Junction, and of course Wild Cherries, and then across the street, the 7-Eleven and what have you. Want to make sure that those businesses continue to get our business as we fight this issue. And as the fire department continues to practice conservative methods, we appreciate it, Chief. Okay. Excuse me, a couple of other questions. There have been fire trucks there the whole time.
Right.
I've never not seen a fire truck there. Will you always be manning the site?
Well, the part of the reason is we're trying to manage this incident with the fire department with the on-duty personnel and not bringing people in because it just goes on and on and on. They need their rest. So we park the fire engine and the ambulance out there, so if we have a call, the firefighters that are there can go. They don't have to run back to the station. Initially, we had it parked there because of some of when they're digging up the street and what have you, we want to make sure there wasn't ignition. But now it's convenience because we're running, we're very quiet about it, but 10 to 12 calls a day for ambulance service, smell of propane in structures, all fires. So we have our crew that responds, we have our hazmat team that stays on site, and we're trying to keep this reasonable. We don't want to experience bureaucratic swell, as I like to say.
Yeah, although there's something about seeing a fire truck there that makes you really pay attention to those barricades.
Yeah, and it's a presence. I mean, we know that the businesses there are nervous, and we want to be there for them. And if they have any questions.
I have a couple of other questions, and you may not be able to address these, so I put you on the spot, but it's okay to say I don't know. One of the questions is about water quality. Is this LP near the water table? Is it? Well,
as a matter of fact, Janet Mann with Environmental Health, Nevada County Environmental Health, has been working closely with us, a key part of this component, and one of her tasks is to oversee the other environmental agencies. So Lahontan water quality has been notified, as with air pollution, to look at this. Right now, LPG is not considered an environmental hazard in that it doesn't mix with water like gasoline would.
Okay.
The water table's right there, but it doesn't travel in water per se. It off gases is when it gets in water. So environmentally, no, it's not really doing anything. It's relatively inert in that sense.
Well, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
That's a good thing to hear.
That's one thing we don't have to deal with.
Now, you do have Nevada County, Janet Mann, as you mentioned, Nevada County is monitoring this as well. What surprised me in all of this, and we're going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly, was that it doesn't seem like there's any agency that provides oversight to LP distributors in terms of auditing their monthly books and that kind of thing. Yeah,
and it's kind of interesting, and I'll get on the podium for Ted Owens, our mayor, is that Ted is taking this for us to the legislature to find out why and to see if we can get some legislation.
Because
there isn't anything.
Introduce legislation.
As a fire department, I have a lot of authority on certain things. I don't have the authority to go in and force them to test underground piping.
Right.
Nobody does. And so
not the building department, not the fire department, not anybody.
New installations, we're all over them, but we can't force them to check. So kudos to Ted. He's already been in Sacramento. He's
working on this effort.
Dealt with Rico Aller, and so
okay.
Good for him.
We're going to wrap this up just briefly again. The recap, 22,000 gallons of LP still underground. The fire department coordinating with other agencies in the town of Truckee. We don't know when Donner Pass Road will reopen. We're hoping by February, or excuse me, President's Day weekend. We don't know that for sure. This has been a special Truckee Talks update. We will be bringing you additional updates as we get more information. There is a public meeting on Friday the 7th at 11 a.m. in the PUD board offices. Chief Terwilliger, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And we'll keep hanging in there.
Oh, yeah.